You're listening to Queer Ear on SPR.
Zebrosa Sound Radio, featuring the music of folks of color, women, LGBTQ, and more. Mostly indie, most of the time. Mondays, 8 to 10 p.m.
Happy Monday, beautiful babies. You are in for a very special treat today. This episode is showcasing Stres, otherwise known as Sasha Boloff, and we're going to hear only her music today, and you get to hear a very special conversation that I had with her. We had a great time talking for over an hour, and I condensed it into 30 minutes. I did cut out some fun little parts like this.
Wait, what's your preference? Do you like acid or do you like mushrooms?
I'm an acid guy for sure. But
I have not done acid yet, but I do want to try it.
Oh, never too late.
But I had a beyond fabulous time talking about her growing up in Seattle, where her musical journey has taken her through all these years, where she's going, and what her inspirations are. Sasha, you are such a gem, and I cannot wait to meet you in real life. And I just hope that you keep putting out music as long as you are on this earth, because I love it, and I think it reaches an emotional place that a lot of music isn't reaching today. So for you, the listener, what you heard in that first set was Minneapolis, Watts 103rd, and Slumlord. And up next, here is our conversation.
You're listening to Queer Ear. I'm Ariel Chamberlain, bringing you the best of LGBTQ music from around the world. And I have a very special guest here today. We have Sasha, who is the solo project of Sasha. What is your last name?
Boloff.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about the amazing new album that you put out that I am addicted to, and a little bit of your personal journey, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and your musical journey.
Oh yeah.
So tell us a bit about your project Stres, how you got started, because I went and I listened back to as far as your catalog goes on Bandcamp, and it seems like you've been using this moniker for quite some time.
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
So I guess Stres started off as I was I've been playing in bands since I was 14, and I was playing in a mix of of course you start off playing in I was in a Green Day cover band when I was 14 years old.
So cute.
I mean, I still love, I mean, of course, I don't really listen to anything past I guess Morning is where I stopped in the catalog, but I still love a lot of that early Green Day, 90s Green Day stuff. And also super queer positive as well, and they always have been.
Yeah.
Their first major tour, they got Pansy Division to open up for them, so they exposed queer punk rock to a huge audience, which was pretty rad because they didn't have to do that.
Totally. And we all know that punk music and pop punk has not always been super queer friendly.
I mean, it still isn't for the most part. I think ska is having a really cool thing right now where it's a lot of the new ska bands are very queer, and I think that's really cool. So I'm hoping to see more queer ska or punk or any in a very mainstream way. I think ska isn't, and I mean I feel like the fourth wave of ska is going to be incredibly queer, and I'm super here for it. But again, you have really cool punk bands right now that are super queer and really rad. But anyway, so I was in a lot of stupid punk bands, and then I got really into the old Firehouse scene in Redmond, and I was going to a lot of Firehouse shows, and I saw bands like Tracy and the Plastics and the Gossip, and the Blood Brothers was a huge band for me. So started writing music and playing in bands that sounded more like that. And I guess eventually I got really sick of being in bands that broke up, because I was in bands and I would invest a lot of time, and I would write the music and have big ambitions, and then conflicts within the group. We would break up, and I had to throw away all those songs and start over again. And eventually I was just I was like, I just want to do my own thing, and then if I want to stop, it'll be my decision to stop. So I think initially I started this project called Kim Novak,
Mhm.
which is like the actress, um, specifically referencing the actress from the Hitchcock movie Vertigo.
Yes.
Um, and that kind of morphed into what Stress ultimately became. It was the first thing that I started writing music to a drum machine, and then eventually I started the first Stress release is an EP called Detonator, which is nowhere. You can't. It's unavailable because the first Stress EP was a very noisy and very I guess angry. It was a very angry like project. It was almost industrial in the sense where it's like distorted guitars, drum machines, and like a lot of yelling and angsty vibes.
Hmm.
And then when I was 23, my brother passed away, and it completely altered my songwriting. And the first full length, stressful length is called Algorithms, which I wrote essentially. It's a grieving record. Like I wrote that record while grieving like my brother's death, and also just going through a lot of like personal stuff. Like I was self-medicating, and I was like examining like like existence as a whole. Um, and yeah, and then after that, like just started write more and more stuff, and I don't know how far you want me to go in the catalog, but um,
Whatever feels relevant to you and like your journey, like that's because I feel like as musicians, like you said, you've been playing since you're 14, right?
yeah.
Like I get that. And it's like we have these projects that we've done that people are like, oh,
Mhm.
I remember when you made that record or like worked with those people. And you're like, yeah, but I don't really like see that as relevant to my person today. It got me
Oh,
here to
100%.
today. But you get what I mean, where it's like
Yeah.
there's so many things along your musical path that lead you to where you are today. But I was very curious in like what like endeavors brought you like to Seagrams, brought you to like the
Mm.
person that you like see within your eye today and like what you're
Yeah.
proud of, like what.
A lot. I mean, like, um, I mean, with Seagram specifically, like, I was really frustrated. It started off with me just being really frustrated, um, putting out music and feeling like um, I feel like I wasn't really being understood. Like, I felt like I put out um, the EP Old Lives, which was the first time I worked with Eric Blood, who I adore, and he is a huge influence and a genius. And I don't know anybody that would say anything bad about him or his music. He's the man. Um, and so we finished the EP, and it just nothing really happened with it, and I was really frustrated with it. And so I'm kind of just frustrated with like the musical climate in Seattle in general. So initially, like Seagrams was going to be a record that was like a little bit of like my love slash hate letter to Seattle,
Oh.
which is where Grams kind of comes from. Like C Gram, like Seattle, and Gram as in like, script or letter or however you want to view the etymology of the word gram.
Mhm.
Um, and then I met somebody, and it kind of like it caused a huge shift in me, and it essentially like uh, it like shook my foundation, and it came crumbling down. And it was an endeavor that was like, it lasted 3 years. And it's hard to even really explain the situation between me and this person. But that's when I started really writing the record. And also, like, I was, like, through the death of my brother that happened, like, I think 5 years prior, I developed like, I developed a really bad drinking habit, and it only got worse during that period, which is also another reason why it's called Seagrams. It's because I was also drinking copious amounts of Seagrams whiskey.
Yes.
Um, and Yeah, I know I was just writing in my apartment in Belltown, and was a huge mess, and got to the point where I got Eric involved with it, and he heard the demos that I was working on in my apartment, and we booked studio time at his then studio, Black Space, which was in the Rainier building.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, which is where I think Liz Majesty was recorded by Shabazz Palaces, and I think the last two Taco Cat records were recorded there as well.
So cool.
Yeah. So we tracked there, and for like, I think 4 days, and I wasn't happy with my vocals, like, at all, and they just irritated me, and the project kind of like 2015 when we went to the studio, and then I was going through a lot, and then kind of put the brakes on the project, and then long story less long, I was at a Eric put out Lost in Slow Motion, right? Am I fucking up that record title? Yeah, Lost in Slow Motion, right?
You would know better than me.
Oh my God, I hope I'm getting this right. It's one of my all-time favorite records. Yes, Lost in Slow Motion. So Eric put out, essentially Eric and I were working on records roughly around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on Seagrams and he was working on Lost in Slow Motion. And then he put out the record, and he had a album release party at the High Dive in Fremont. And a mutual friend, Kelly Fleek, was there of the Spider Ferns. And she just happened to have a big, long psilocybin, like one of those really big, long ones. And she just slipped it in my pocket. She just slipped it in there. And I was like, "You just giving me a mushroom?" I always hear about, when I hear about people with mushrooms, I always hear that it changes people's lives, and it was a spiritual event, and that they never seek it out. It always finds them. And then I didn't realize that it was actually happening to me. And so I didn't know what to do with it at first. I put it in my freezer for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother's birthday, which would have been probably, I can't remember, like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
It was his birthday, which was June 25th. And I was at a bar that me and my friends used to hang out with, and who I've, met a lot of my queer friends there as well. And I was hanging out with like queer people even then. And one of my friends was out in the patio, and we were just drinking. It was like, June, like early afternoon, and it was beautiful. And I was talking about my brother to her, and she's also, so she's trans at this point in the story. I didn't even realize I was trans at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about my brother, and I mentioned that I had mushrooms, and she was like, "Fucking go to a park, just like take some mushrooms and like, have a grand old time." I was like, you know what, that sounds like a good idea.
Mhm.
And I've never taken mushrooms before. And then so I went up to Discovery Park
Oh
and I
yeah.
bought a sandwich and I think a cider.
Yeah.
I'm literally like from Belltown. I'm like walking up to the hill. I think I took the 8 and I'm like eating like little pieces of it. And I'm saving the cap till the end. So I'm like, as I'm like journeying up there, eventually I get there and then like it really hits. And at first I'm just like laughing because it's just like, oh, this is totally mushrooms. Like I'm on mushrooms. This is hilarious. And then also I was just a huge smoker back then. I don't smoke anymore, but I was
Mhm.
chain smoking. And I looked at my left hand and I was just like, oh, that looks like a girl's hand. And
Hey.
then so I texted my friend, who's also trans. I got like it's funny that I just happened to have a bunch of trans friends at the time. And I just sent him a text that says, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm at work." And I was like, "I'm in the park. I think I'm a girl." And I sent it. And then like I immediately just start having like a panic attack. And like you know like in like a one of those like movies where like you're like tripping and like things start to cave in and like things start to get scary, and then I immediately was able to just like snap out of it by convincing myself that like, look, whatever just happened, don't even worry about it, just deal with that after when you're not high.
Mhm.
And then eventually, and it also happened to be the Saturday before Pride also.
Oh, hey.
So
Little psychic energy there.
so I had a very, this is also just my mushroom trip is a very long story and I don't want to make it too long, but I end up like having like this moment at the beach where I'm realizing that my parents aren't really my parents, but like I am like my own parent. And I had like this really like moment where like I felt like I was with like my true parents. And then the next morning I went down to the bar, which happened to be on Fourth Avenue, which is where Pride in Seattle usually is,
Mhm.
called the Two Bells RAP. And then I came out to all of my queer friends and celebrated my first Pride 2016 as a trans woman.
Congrats.
Thank
Oh, that's such a beautiful story.
you.
Oh my God, I love that.
So, needless to say, I didn't jump back into Seagrams for a while. I ended up writing a song called "She Her Me You" to perform. That bar had a benefit for the Lambert House, and
Mhm.
I was asked to perform. And so I also like fell head over heels over this person, and then I wrote a performance piece that was like a 9-minute long performance piece that I called "She Her Me You," and then I got the stranger to put it out or like to I guess like write about it, and that was like my way of like coming out publicly was through this song. And Yellier reached out and was like, "Hey, we want to put this out as like an EP, like cut it up into 3 songs and then put it out as an EP." And I didn't have really real big aspirations for She Hear Me. It was more just like a vehicle to like be like, "Hey, like this is me now."
Mhm.
Um, so, but my drummer at the time, I was talking to him about it, and I was like, "Look, I know we've been working on this album for so long, and I really want to finish it." And I never had no idea. I never had an idea of not finishing it. I knew I was going to finish it at one point, but I was like, "We'll put this out first, and then I guess this will be like a reintroducing of like me and like Stress as like a thing, and then we'll put out Seagrams later." And then yeah, and then that's essentially what happened. Eventually, I got back into um, um, finishing the album, and I took vocal lessons.
Mhm.
Like my singing, I just hated my voice, and I took vocal lessons for a summer, and then got back in the studio, did the vocals, and sent them to Eric. Eric mixed them in LA, and then bada bing, bada boom, contacted Clyde over at Cruising, and then
Shout out Clyde.
shout out Clyde. and then that's it. I mean, the rest is, I guess, history, I suppose.
Yeah, well, history in the making. Like Seagrams is still like so new to the world. Like
It's true. It's only like 2 weeks old, right?
yes, and like like I said, I've been listening to this because Clyde like sent it to me like I want to say like either late August or like September. Does that sound right? Like it was finished by then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I've just been like listening to this and I'm like, when is the world going to hear this? Because I absolutely love it. It's like such an emotional roller coaster, like from start to end. Because like, you know, it starts out like very, like if I were to use this as like the mushroom analogy, right? Like this, like the beginning is you walking to Discovery Park. And by the time you get to like Echo Complex, that's like, I'm tripping balls. And then by the time you end, you kind of like deal with like the whole lesson that you have learned through this album. So it's cool to hear that it took so long and like so much self journey and resilience to go into this album, because it comes through. Like, yeah, this isn't just like your cookie cutter, like electropop album. Like like I could tell you put a lot into this.
It's very conceptually dense. Like I made a point to always like add something new every time I went back to work on it. So there was always like something that made it like relevant to me until the very end, where like all the vocals were recorded super well. Actually, only one song has the old vocals. Watts is the only song that has my vocals from when I was tracking it back in like 2015.
Really?
That's the only song that has like those old vocals. Everything else is like brand new. And I actually wrote Seagrams and Slumlord super recently as well. So in a way, it's like kind of timeless. There's like the bulk of it was written around like 2014, 2015, but like there's still like parts of it that are incredibly like still fresh to me.
Love that. Yeah, I just have to say that like Echo Complex, like out of I love the whole album, but that song in particular is I'm primarily a drummer. Like that's the song I've listened to like over and over and over again. So
it's a rocker.
It is. And like also just like from the beginning to the end, like I remember the first couple times I listened to it, I had to check and like make sure it was the same song, which like I love it when that happens. So can you tell me a bit about, did you say that you had a friend playing drums, or was that you? Was that a machine?
That was so Stres up until I think like 2013 is as a live entity, as a two-piece.
Oh, cool.
It's me playing guitar and singing and a drummer, and we're playing to a backing track, which is I jokingly refer to as our third member.
Awesome.
And mainly because like coming from like a punk hardcore background, live drums just hit, you know. You need live drums, especially, you know, with like the type of music I do. A good snare, like a loud snare, is it. You need in the kick, you need to feel it in your stomach. And I think was something that almost turned me off of doing something that was like technically electronic music, because I felt like live electronic music always felt very flat. So the counterpart, that I wanted to make sure I had a drummer, and a drummer that hit really hard. Aaron, who plays drums, who was my drummer for 5 years and was supposed to be on Old Lives, but he got the flu, so he's not on there. But he plays on Seagrams. It's and I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Oh, I was saying that Echo Complex is my favorite song on Seagrams, and I was wondering like what was like who played on it, and just kind of the nerding out on like the musician aspect of it, like the production side, and like where you got like the idea. Like I feel like there's a lot of reverb and like washing out going on, and just like where you got the inspiration for that song.
The inspiration between Echo Complex is I had like So with every project that I do, I always get like really obsessed with like a new piece of equipment. And for Seagrams, it was this analog delay, and I was hooking everything up to it. And so I had Propeller on my iPhone at the time,
Hmm.
which is like a Reason app, and I was just like really like into just like hooking that up into the pedal. And so the bass line is just like this like um, really simple like up and down scale bass line, but it's hooked up to a pedal. And I really like that vibe. I really felt like the vibe um, was a good um, was a good break, because when I write records, I typically write them essentially. I sequence them while I write, so like I will know like what I'm missing in a record, like if it's like too much of like this type of vibe and da, da, da. So I felt like it was a good break.
Hmm.
And um yeah, and I wrote, I don't know, I kind of I found there's this drum sample in it that I really wish I could remember where it came from, but it felt very mysterious and almost like kind of like, I don't know, it kind of felt like it was coming from like a different like world.
Yeah, it's
And
very ethereal.
yeah,
You
it's
use like a weird, almost Locrian scale for your vote, like "tell that's not true." Like
yeah,
it has a very cool melodic pattern to it.
I was very tapped into it, and like I'm glad that Eric picked up on the vibe when it came to it. Like the vocal effects he puts on it is really really cool. Um, and I think I had very specific ideas of like it blowing up into like a almost like almost like a cashmere kind of stomp like break.
Yes.
And in the studio when we were recording it, and like it gets to the part where the arpeggiating keyboard starts happening, I had this like very specific idea of like how I wanted it to just like explode. And um and then like Aaron nailed it. Like we put at Black Space, there are two spots that we recorded drums. There's a dead room where a lot of the drums were recorded, and we would stack drum sounds. Like there's like snare samples that I have and kick samples, and we would stack like lead drums on top of them.
Hmm.
So like every song has like at least like a few different drum sounds on there. And for Echo Complex, there was this huge echo room that we used it for, and we just wanted it to just like explode and be incredibly chaotic and super noisy. And Aaron is like me, where like we were both came from um, you know, punk hardcore pasts. Like Aaron used to be in this band called Akimbo.
Hmm.
And so it was kind of just like a callback to just like our like former like musical lives. And we kind of just wanted to make something that just rocked, you know?
Well, you fucking did. Like it blows my socks off every time.
Thank you.
And not
Wait till you see it live.
I cannot wait. Oh,
Yeah.
great segue. Are you playing any live shows soon?
so so I had bottom surgery on September 7th, and we had,
Congrats.
thank you so much, um, 5 week recovery as of yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Anyway, 5 week recovery.
Hmm.
Um, now I'm mobile now, and I can do all things that normal people can do.
Hmm.
Finally, um, we had a show booked on the 28th of August, and because of COVID and because it was so close to my surgery date, I had to cancel it because like it was just too much. It was too close um, to the surgery date, and if I got COVID, it would have just like it would have sucked. It would have canceled everything. So, but we are planning on touring in March,
Oh,
and
cool.
so like going down the West Coast. So that's going to be like, our big like, celebration point once like I'm fully recovered from surgery, and like yeah, so yeah, and take the record on tour as well. So
Hell yes.
Mhm.
Well, you know that I will be there when you stop in Portland or wherever
course.
has. If I have to drive up to Seattle, I'll do it.
Oh, we're definitely going to Portland. We'll be there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, you let me know, and yeah, we'll have a good time for sure.
awesome.
Awesome.
And
Well,
Echo Complex is on the set list, so you
I'll
can
be
also,
the nerd going like way too hard in the crowd.
you should bring a snare or something, and you can just jump on stage with us, and like it'll be like a when it explodes, you can do like a little like drum circle situation.
Oh, that would be sick. Well, thank you for taking this time to tell us about yourself and Seagrams and what is to come. And any parting statements you have for our listeners.
Yeah, Seagrams is available on vinyl, gatefold vinyl. You can buy it through the Cruisin' Records Bandcamp or my Bandcamp, which is stressesit.com. No, stressesit.bandcamp.com. And yeah, we're excited to tour in the spring, and super excited for people to be hearing the record and liking it. And yeah, check it out.
So excited. And for all of you listeners, I will put the links to the Bandcamp, where to buy the vinyl and other merch of Stresses in my Instagram post for this episode. So go there, give Sasha your money, give Cruisin' your money, and support artists, because it's been a long, almost 2 years now. And even beyond that, artists need support. So get out
100%.
there and buy this stuff.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
And without further ado, here is Echo Complex by Stres.
It's hard to deny that those stories are told. Chop it up to a rhythm and see where it goes. In need of a firm
Shady Pines Radio.
You just heard Echo Complex, Your Life in Black and White, Two Worlds, Naive Melody, and Looking Glass, all done by Stres, all on Seagrams, which is the album that came out just 2 weeks ago by her. And I am just in awe, in awe of this music continually, and I know that I will be for years and years and years. Thank you, all of you, for your time. Make sure to support Stres. Make sure to go see her when she's out on tour this coming spring. And all in all, babies, make good decisions with your heart and live through your soul. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Subliminal Loving. For the love of everything and the space in between. Thursdays, 10 to 11. Here on Shady Pines Radio.